Varsana Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem Shikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath, Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai, Vrindaban Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Ganga Maya ki jai, Jamuna Maya ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vinda ki jai, Shri Gaura Purnima ki jai, Shri Gauritai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vinda. Reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 7, verse 128. Charideka tarika Krishna Upadesh. Amara Gaya Guru Hana Taradesh. Charideka tarika Krishna Upadesh. Amara Gaya Guru Hana Taradesh. Charideka tarika Krishna Upadesh. Amara Gaya Guru Hana Taradesh. Translation. Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. This verse is Mahaprabhu's response to the Kurma Brahmana who he met in South India Kurma was a householder, and he received Mahaprabhu with great affection in his house. And then when the Lord was leaving, he wanted to go with him. And the Lord told him basically what he told everybody. There's no need to change your circumstances. Just instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate this land. Purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This is the sublime mission of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Many people come and inquire whether they have to give up family life to join the society, but that is not our mission. One can remain comfortably in his residence. We simply request everyone to chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If one is a little literate, he can read Bhagavad Gita as it is and Srimad Bhagavatam. That is so much the better. These works are now available in English translation, and they are done very authoritatively to appeal to all classes of men. Instead of living engrossed in material activities, people throughout the world should take advantage of this movement and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra at home with their families. Translation again, please repeat. Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna.
Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna.
As they are given in Bhagavad Gita. And Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way become a spiritual master. And try to liberate this land. This is the most common generic instruction which Lord Caitanya gave to everyone. And Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna consciousness is simple and sublime. Simple meaning what he's addressing in this purport, anyone can take shelter of this movement. Even a child, even a dog can take part, as we see in Nimai's childhood pastimes. Simultaneously, that's the simple part. The sublime part is that the teachings of Lord Caitanya are the most satisfying and fulfilling to even the greatest scholars and masters of Scripture. Therefore, simple and sublime. The sublime part was beautifully articulated by Swarup Damodar, who was known as Purushottama Acharya when he lived in Navadvip during the time of Mahaprabhu's early Leela. And when he heard that the Lord had quite unexpectedly and suddenly taken sannyas and left Nadia, Purushottama became like a madman, kind of like Lord Gauranga. He went to Varanasi and he too took sannyas from a Mayavadi sannyasi who instructed him to study Vedanta Sutra and teach it to others. He didn't follow that instruction to the letter. He pursued the spirit of that instruction perfectly by immersing himself in Krishna Lila in following Mahaprabhu to Jagannath Puri, he lived a very reclusive life because he really wanted to focus without disturbance on Krishna Nam, Krishna Kirtan, Krishna's instructions, Krishna Lila. And he, along with Ramananda Rai, were the only two that could really understand the depth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's emotions. And therefore, in his later years in Puri, as he was drifting like the current of a river between the two embankments of union with Krishna, which would make him ecstatic, and separation from Krishna, which would leave him devastated. And too much extreme of either, the devotees feared he would just depart this world. So when Mahaprabhu drifted too much into the ecstasy of union with Krishna, Swarup Damodar would sing songs of separation from Krishna to balance his moods. When he became too much immersed in the agony of separation, Swarup Damodar would sing songs of meeting to bring his consciousness back somewhere in between. He maintained his brahmachari name, Damodar, Swarup. And when he reached Puri, in his first words of greeting the Lord, he beautifully articulated the essence of Mahaprabhu's gifts. O ocean of mercy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, may there be an awakening of your auspicious mercy. May it rise like the sun and expand like the dawn to dissipate darkness in this world and awaken transcendental bliss. Purify the creation. Cause the hearts of everyone to jubilate by pouring forth transcendental mellows to the extent of Madhurya's fullest expression, which makes the devotees mad as they surrender to you. Mahaprabhu embraced him and said, living without you, I have been like a madman, and your coming here has restored my vision. Swarup Damodar is Lalita Devi of Krishna Lila, Ramananda Rai being Vishaka. And what this verse articulates Prabodhananda Saraswati, who is Tunga Vidya, most expert in the Vedas amongst the gopis, also has this ability to articulate in very condensed synopsis, poetic verses, the essence of Gaura Lila. And Srila Prabhupada so much liked to quote Prabodhananda Saraswati, who sings that splendid path of prema bhakti, in its ultimate feature, not the prema Vaikuntha, the prema of Braj, in its most confidential form, that splendid path of prema bhakti, which eluded sages of yore, which empiric knowledge can never approach. And even Krishna never shared, even with his most confidential associates. This is the arena where the devotees of Lord Gauranga blissfully enjoy Leela. And then in a subsequent verse, he sums up the essence of Lord Chaitanya's gifts to this world. The direction to prema, and there again, not the prema of Dwarka or Mathura, but the essence of Braj Prem, the direction to Prem, which no one ever grasped before, the honey-sweet nectar of the mellows of Vrindaban, which no one even imagined, and the luster of the topmost peak on the whole range of spiritual perfection, Srimati Radharani's lotus feet, which no one ever understood properly. All these things, and so much more, Lord Gauranga has given to this world, because he is an ocean of mercy. And that ocean, ever undulating with waves of grace and immersing the world, that Lord Gauranga is the origin of that ocean of mercy. The essence being that he has given us access to the holy name of Krishna, non-different from the very form of Krishna, except in terms of mercy. Because in the worship and service of Krishna, there are so many considerations: purity, time, place, circumstance, birth, qualification, on and on. To the extent that Srila Prabhupada said, if you knew all the rules, if I told you all the rules and regulations, you would faint. The holy name makes no such considerations and freely dances upon the tongue of even the most foul-mouthed and omnivorous persons, if they simply open their ears and hearts to receive that holy name. That priceless treasure of Golok is not measured in what we achieve. It's established by who we receive. It is simply a gift. And the pastimes and precepts of Lord Gauranga, which we are chanting here this morning, contain everything in more, in terms of the essence of all Shastras and all religions. Such a complete view of the absolute truth, the Sanam Bonam, which since time immemorial, avatars, acharyas, prophets have unveiled to various extents, giving partial perspectives of the absolute, Lord Caitanya unveiled that Summum Bonum completely. Which Krishna did in his manifest Leela, although he did not make it accessible and available for anyone except such highly exalted sages of Dandakaranya. The personified Vedas. But as far as people in general having any access to entrance into Braj Leela, it remained impossible until the gift was followed by the giver 4,500 years later with the appearance of Lord Caitanya, whose message and mercy and instructions are most potent in resolving all doubts and difficulties on the path to Braja. He embodies the fullest power of deliverance for all souls in all conditions of life. And we know that what our heart loves, our mind will accept and our intellect will justify. How the holy name of Krishna non-different from the Lord himself, could be readily and easily available. Comprises the ultimate expression of the Lord's grace. Consider, the absolute truth is inaccessible to the ascending empiric efforts of man, and is therefore the simple analogy of the sun, which can be known and seen only by the sunshine, which is the grace of the sun, and that sun is self-manifest. When it rises above the horizon, and also above the mists and clouds of our residual empiric faith, and there's nothing obstructing our vision to it. Fact is, the sun is always above the horizon. But the jivas, something like owls, have you ever seen an owl throughout, watch an owl through the day. When the sun rises, they turn their head the other direction and close their eyes. And as the sun moves from east to west, they keep turning their head away from the sun and keep their eyes tightly closed. Humans do this also. But humans are more sophisticated. They search for the sun with their most powerful searchlights invented by the ingenuity of man. And it's interesting. Do you ever see spotlights? They made them in World War I, and they used them in World War II also, to detect the night bombers. And they use them today. When they're opening a new store or a mall, they set up these searchlights and move them around in the sky, and it attracts people like moths to that light. We're attracted because we have this faith in ourselves that by our empiric abilities, we can rise to the transcendental plane. Ravana believed that, and he made a stairway towards heaven. And look what happened to him. Tower of Babel. We will make a name for ourselves by rising up with our mortal abilities to heaven. And what happened? They got so confounded that everybody was speaking a different language, and whatever anybody asked for, he got the opposite. And they got scattered all over the world. Therefore, the name Tower of Babel. Nothing they said made any sense whatsoever. This is not to say the empiric gifts of man have no value. They are helpful, even in study of Shastra, to the extent of understanding the need for a spiritual master. And when we understand that, then the whole empiric quest resolves into the question of how to surrender, to receive the gift of Lord Gauranga. Which unfortunately, what does unfortunate mean? That's expressed in a tearful voice of Mahaprabhu praying to Krishna in great agony. Etadar Shivatika Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dodaiva Midrisha Mahajni Nanuraga. My Lord, you're an ocean of grace, most perfectly expressed in the chanting of your holy name. And I am so unfortunate, I have no attraction for it. This is the supreme misfortune. And how can it be Look at other lesser wonders of this world. We just said, see a fantastic light show, and people think, wonderful. And yet the fact that the sun rises every morning, disseminating light, which means truth, and warmth, which means life, throughout all of the universe, most people don't even notice. What to speak of appreciate, or airplanes, or spaceships. We see these fantastic airplanes, or spaceships, and we think, how wonderful. The fact that we are all living on the surface of the most fabulous spaceship in all creation, hurtling through space at immeasurable speed, holding on her surface and the depths of her waters habitat for unlimited jiva souls in her mountains and oceans and seas and fields and valleys and streams and rivers. And that Mother Earth is the very consort of the Lord, consort of Varahadev, who in union gave birth to a son, Boma. The fact that we're living on such a spaceship, it usually never even registers in people's minds. Or we see masterpieces of sculpture, like Michelangelo's David. People come from all over the world to see. And they marvel. What craftsmanship. But who marvels at the unlimited sparks of consciousness that are all around us, that enter into some mother's womb and develop and take birth and grow into people like David, to perform wonderful feats like confronting Goliath. You know, Goliath, the giant of the formidable Philistine army, who the Israelites were so intimidated to confront. And then little David shows up on the scene. He wasn't even drafted into the war. He just got sent to deliver prasadam to his brothers who were fighting. Why is everybody so intimidated? It's a monster on the Philistines. Well, I'll fight with him. And David had already performed some miracles, like single-handedly killing the lion and the bear. So he thought, well, maybe he can do it. So he walked out on the battlefield, and Goliath was insulted. Who's this little shepherd boy coming before me with all my armies and horses and chariots and elephants and sophisticated weaponry? He said, you may have all that, but I come before you in the name of the Lord. The point is, there's masterpieces all around us. But we don't notice. And even though the miracles which surround us and abound in this world, they may be perceived by our senses and register by the mind, but they seldom penetrate into the realm of consciousness, what to speak of touching our hearts. And the supreme gift and wonder of all, the holy name of the Lord, has gone the way of so many lesser miracles. And therefore, we take it for granted because it's readily and easily available, and we see the holy name chanted in our midst every day. And there is no equal or greater misfortune in this. Agonizing the heart of the Lord, feeling the plight of the Jivas, crying out to Krishna, Etadrshi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi, durdaiva medisham hajani nanuraga. So, The pastimes of Lord Gauranga are grounded in his divinity, which implies that knowledge of his deeds are equal to those deeds themselves. It simply requires confidence and reverence worthy of the Lord to approach his message. Jadideka Tadikaha Krishna Vidash Amara Gaya Guru Hanatalidash. But we're still confronted with a challenge. If the absolute world, which can only be perceived through sound, which cannot register with the material senses, how do we access the absolute in forms of the name and pastimes and form and qualities and message of Godhead? There's something happens because the Lord is ever seeking entrance into a heart who is simply open and willing to receive him. And when he finds such a candidate, characterized by opening our ears and hearts to the message of Godhead, which cannot be registered or perceived by material senses, or empiric ability, or imagination, or intellect, or anything of this world, and yet, the message of Godhead, which is the voice of God himself, when it enters our ears, if we are simply humble, it purifies our hearts and awakens the sleeping soul, Jiv Jago. And then, with spiritual senses, we are empowered to hear and chant Shuddhanam and the pure message and perceive the pastimes of Godhead, awakening within our hearts from the holy name, from which the pastime and form and qualities and entourage and paraphernalia of the Lord manifest themselves consecutively in our meditation. Veda means knowledge. It's the means by which the Lord makes himself known in the form of Shruti, that which is heard. And the absolute truth, which finds expression, implicit expression, in the Veda, finds systematic and explicit expression in the Brahma Sutra, which is the master theistic philosophical masterpiece of all times, wherein the three cardinal truths, Sambandha, Videya, Prayojana, are introduced. And the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra is the Srimad Bhagavatam, which awards Krishna illicit it awards Krishna explicit expression as the central theme, with Braj Leela holding the highest place of honor. And yet there's a challenge. Because Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes, the sweetest nectar, the most potent remedy for the disease of false ego, is also the most subject to be grossly misunderstood, as we see in the case of sahajas. And therefore the pastimes and precepts of Lord Gauranga, they overcome this obstacle by revealing the living embodiment of the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam in the history of service of the most perfectly unreserved intimacy as found in the residence of Vrindaban. And that hidden truth of the Vedas, which is Gaura Lila, never before revealed to this world, is why Rupa Goswami prays, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratusse Namah. Most magnanimous, because he's revealing what was never disclosed before, what to speak of becoming accessible to jivas. Chaitanya Charitamrita offers the most complete and perfect view of the Absolute. And indeed, this is what all the avatars and scriptures and religions of the world have been endeavoring since time immemorial to proclaim, but were inadequately equipped to succeed. Pastimes and precepts of Lord Caitanya offer everything and more which is contained in the whole body of world scriptures, not found anywhere else. And in resolving all doubts and difficulties and conflicts and apparent contradictions in the spiritual quest, the message of Lord Caitanya resolves all the quarrels and disagreements which create so much discord in this world. So, the aspect of the Lord's Leela regarding deliverance of this world is external, actually. The internal and external reasons listed by Kaviraj Goswami. And that's why we say his appearance is grounded in his divinity. He didn't come to deliver the world. Why did he come? Desiring to understand the glories of Srimati Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him, Krishna, which she alone can properly relish and cherish by dint of her love, and the sublime happiness she feels when she tastes the nectar of his love. The Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appears from the womb of Sachi Devi like the moon rising from the ocean. It was a paradox to Krishna. I am the source of everything and everyone. I am omniscient, omnipotent, and yet there is something that I cannot understand, which is threefold. What is it in me that she sees, Radha, that makes her so happy? Krishna couldn't see that in himself. And he couldn't see what she was seeing without donning her emotions and complexion. He could not experience the nature of her heart, even though he's omniscient and omnipotent, without personifying her role. So, the external, delivering the world, which just happened to, Gaura Purnima just happened to coincide with the time appropriate for an avatar, the Yuga avatar, to descend. So all the avatars are contained within Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the mission of delivering the world was more the effect of Lord Nityananda and Advaita Acharya. And Advaita is the cause of the appearance of Lord Caitanya. He was the he was performing already the work of the Yuga avatar, performing Sankirtan with Haridas Thakur, even after Lord Caitanya was born and growing up as a child. And Advaitacharya, when he met, this is way before the appearance of Lord Gauranga, when Advaitacharya, after the demise of his parents, went on pilgrimage, and in Udupi he met Madhavendra Puri, and each seeing in the other the perfect embodiment of love of Godhead, they had very serious talks about how there was a great need for a special avatar. And Advaita predicted the advent of Lord Gauranga and revealed his confidential Leela to Madhavendra Puri. And then, after his pilgrimage, coming back to Shantipur, Advaita, feeling such compassion for the degraded condition of the world, was thinking how to deliver them. Now, he himself is perfectly competent to deliver the world. He's the combined form of Sadashiva Mahavishnu. And he was already leading Nam Sankirtan with Haridas Thakur. Why is he calling for an avatar to descend? And then that verse came to his mind. Sri Krishna, so favorably inclined towards his devotees, gives his very self to his servant who worships him with simple gift of Ganges water and Tulsi Manjaris. So he worshipped a Shalagram Shila. And the flowers from his puja drifting down in the course of the Ganges, brushing upon the side of Mother Sachi as she bathed in Navadvip. Giving birth to Vishwarup, Lord Chaitanya's older brother, the plenary portion of Lord Nityananda. And then back in Shantipur, with the birth of, later, it was a time of drought, 1486 AD. Bengal was threatened with famine. The earth prayed for rains of mercy. Then came the lunar eclipse, which is considered inauspicious because the light of either the sun or the moon, in this case the moon, is blocked out. That's inauspicious. And there's a blockage of light. So what do Hindus do during an eclipse? They enter the Ganges chanting Hare Krishna. So when all the Hindus were bathing in the Ganges chanting Hare Krishna, and all the Muslims were chanting Hare Krishna in ridicule and jest, the holy name first advented in this world, and then the form of the Lord advented himself. And really, the moon was hiding his face in shame, thinking, what is the use of a luminary with so many faults, while the spotless golden moon is rising on the eastern horizon? That's the esoteric meaning of the eclipse. So, with the appearance of Lord Gauranga, Advaita joined arm in arm with Haridas Thakur, and they were dancing in the ecstasy of joy. And all of nature joined with all mankind, rising in one voice, praising the son of Mother Sachi. And the environment at that time, No terrestrial or celestial artist could possibly depict the delicate assemblage of beauty, color, warmth, harmony, charm, and loving relationships which just abounded at that time. And Kali, hovering on the outskirts of the town, thinking, this is supposed to be my age. Why is everyone chanting Hare Krishna? I cannot live in such an age. And Kali vanished in the night, hearing the words of the Brahmanas rising from Navadvip. Blessed is this holy eve of the advent of our Lord and Savior, whose appearance day, the sages proclaim, is infused with the spiritual potency to kindle ecstatic love for Krishna. So, Lord Gauranga took birth at moonrise, and the baby submitted to the love of Vrindaban, which was lavished upon him by his servants, infusing and inspiring his parents and relatives and everyone with a love so sweet that no one even noticed the nature of divinity inherent to every act the child, the baby at this point, performed. But they were soon alarmed to find that he would not accept his mother's milk. And they called all the doctors. What's wrong with him? This is something spiritual. You don't ask the doctor. So they called the Dvaitacharya. And he concluded that since Mother Sachi is not initiated, he's considering that her milk is not offerable. To do. So on the spot, Advaitacharya initiated Mother Sachi and Jagannath Mishra. And then the baby drank very happily. And everyone was so relieved. When the time came for his name-giving ceremony, all the Matajis already had their minds made up. Because Mother Sachi gave birth to 8 daughters before Vishwarup, all who died just after birth. Now, this is parallel to Devaki giving birth to 6 sons who all perished. The 8 daughters being the 8 material elements that cover the heart of the conditioned soul, who have to be dispelled before the Lord appears. So the Matajis sympathizing with Mother Sachi, thinking, furthermore, the baby was so attractive, they were afraid, he'll also attract witches and ghosts. So he should be named Nimai. Plus he was born under a neem tree, which is antiseptic. He should be named Nimai, to remind Yamaraj that you've already caused enough trouble. Leave this child alone. So Nilambar Chakravarti, who was Gargamuni in Chaitanya Lila, and Krishna Lila, said, yes, Nimai is all right, but secondary name, nickname, his main name should be Vishrambar. Because with his birth, gentle rains relieved the drought. Vishrambar, the sustainer and nourisher of all the world, that should be his foremost name. So then, Mother Sachi worshipped goddess Shasti, who protects infants. And then when it came time for to ascertain the baby's varna, placing before him, the books, including the Bhagavatam, and the rice and the gold coins to see if he's Vaishya or Kshatriya or Brahmin. He just disregarded everything, went right to the Srimad Bhagavatam and embraced it to his heart. And then everyone chanted, Jai, Jai, he will be a great scholar who can ascertain the essence of Shastra. He said, no, it's deeper than that. He will know and experience and reveal the heart of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, then one day, a huge serpent crawled into the courtyard. And the first one to notice was Nimai. And he ran over and touched the serpent on his head. And the serpent coiled up, making a nice bed. Nimai laid down and went to sleep. And then when Mother Sachi and Misha saw that their cherished baby is asleep in the coils of this massive serpent, a shriek of terror rose in the household, and everyone was chanting, Garuda, Garuda. And then the serpent looked, and he saw that I didn't come here to disturb everyone. So he unwound his coils and started to slither away. But Nimai ran after him. No, don't leave. Because he recognized his old friend, the Anantashesh. But the parents rescued him, brought him back. And every time they started to let him go, he would run back after that serpent. They could not see what he was seeing. And then began the pastimes of stealing butter, in which he was actually stealing away the faculties of everyone's hearts. And then the thieves, because Mother Sachi would decorate her baby so lavishly with jewels and ornaments and gold. So when he was walking down to the Ganges, and these thieves, this is like a treasure chest. So they went to him and said, my dear boy, we want to take you home. And he said, yes, I want you to take me home. And because they were feeding him sandesh, said, I'll go with you. So they took him on, the two thieves, and these were dacoits of the worst order. They took him on their shoulders and ran off. And they were convinced that they were following the road to their hideout, where they would rob him and who knows what else. But by his yoga maya, they were seeing the path to their hideout, which took them right into Jagannath Mishra's house. So they thought they were in their hideout, where they were going to rob the boy, when they hear cries of Haribo, Haribo. What is this? And then they ran away. And Jagannath Mishra is so grateful to these strangers who brought back my boy. He ran after them with turbans and silks and gifts, and they were running. What strange people. But this is a Gata Sukriti. Because they took the Lord for a joyride, they will be forever after eligible for prema bhakti. Then, one day, Jagannath Mishra asked Nimai to bring a book from the other room. He was just practically a baby at the time. And like Krishna, who would struggle to bring Nanda Maharaj's shoes, which he carried on his head, Nimai was struggling to bring this book. But Mishra noticed that there is this beautiful music of ringing ankle bells, synchronized with the movements of the baby. But he's not wearing ankle bells. So he gave Mishra the book, and then he danced off to the sound of ankle bells ringing. And then Jagannath Mishra noticed that where Nimai had walked, there are footsteps visible on the floor, embellished with flag and the trident and the elephant goad. These are the Lord's footprints. And they bowed down before those footprints, thinking, we will no longer have to take birth in this world because our Damodar Shila is walking around the house. And the sound of his ankle bracelets is just synchronized with the movements of Nimai. So make a special feast, an abhishek for Damodar Shila. And as they're worshipping their Shalagram Shila with so much gratitude that he's become animated, walking around the house, Nimai's in the other room, just laughing. Then came a wonderful pastime with the arrival of the pilgrim Brahmin, who was a devotee of Gopal, kept this little Gopal deity in a bag, which he connected to a string around his neck. This pilgrim Brahmin was on the lifelong quest for Krishna, traveling to all holy places of India. And he was aglow. He was radiant with the luster of love for Krishna. And when he arrived at Jagannath Mishra's house, Mishra was so grateful to receive such a sadhu. He washed his feet and then he asked him, Jagannath Mishra asked the pilgrim Brahman, how can I serve you? And he said, well, it's actually a great opportunity for me being in your house because I live in the forest and all I can offer my Gopal deity is fruits and roots. I would like to make him a nice meal. So Jagannath Mishra was so happy, yes. And he prepared the kitchen with all the ingredients to make a nice feast for Gopal. And when he was done, and he was offering his feast to his deity Gopal, before Gopal could eat, who showed up on the scene but Nimai? He's right off, playing in the streets, ran into the house, dressed only in the 4 directions, his palms and his eyes and the soles of his feet reddish, and he grabbed the offering and started eating. And the Brahmana cried out, this boy has spoiled my offering. Jagannath Mishra was furious. He ran after him with a stick in his hand, but the Brahman caught his hand and said, don't. He's practically an infant. He doesn't know right from wrong. It appears that by providence, I am to fast today. Mishra would not hear of it, no. If you actually accept me as your servant, which you say you do, please cook one more time. He wasn't going to do it, but Jagannath Mishra convinced him. It wasn't actually Jagannath Mishra convinced him. It's more Vishvarup. Vishvarup appeared in the scene. He said, it is a great fortune to have such a guest as you in our house. There would be no misfortune like if you had to fast because of my brother. Please cook again. He said, no, it's clearly providence. I'm to fast today. And Vishvarup fell at his feet. clasped his feet and begged him, please, for the sake of Krishna, cook one more time. So he cooked again. Nimai, they took to a neighbor's house where the ladies were watching him, and they asked, Nimai, you're eating from a stranger? You can lose your caste for this. He said, no, I'm always a gopa. I know my caste, I'm a cowherd boy, and I eat from the brahmanas all the time. I won't lose my caste. And although they were watching him vigilantly so they wouldn't go back and do the same thing again, somehow he bewitched them. And as the brahmana is making a second offering, Nimai shows up on the scene and starts eating it. And he cries out. Jagannath Mishra comes running, chasing after him with a stick. No, don't punish him. He doesn't know any better. He's just an infant. And he said, by this time it's getting late at night. And he said, so Mishra implored him, cook one more time. He said, no, it's obviously providence. I should fast today. But Vishvarup was so influential. You must cook one more time. So Vishvarup and Nimai, he already locked himself in a room because Jagannath Mishra was chasing him with a stick. Jagannath Mishra locked the outside of the room, and he sat down there to stand guard, as did the rest of the family and relatives, so that this couldn't possibly happen a third time. So the Brahmana finished his offering after midnight. Everyone was asleep. Jagannath Mishra and all the guards were sound asleep. Nimai was locked tight, both from the inside and the outside, in a room. When the Brahmin finished his third offering and was just making the offering, when Nimai shows up, intervenes between him and his deity, and starts eating the offering. And this time, when the Brahmana cried out in grief and disbelief, there was nobody awake to hear him or chase him. So Nimai didn't have to run away. So he just asked the Brahman, you're so gracious that you offer everything to me, but when I come to accept it, you scream. So then you call me by name, Gopal, and I can't resist you. I'm always longing to see you. And thus, this is Nimai speaking to the Brahman. I'm always longing to see you, and therefore I have come before you. And then Nimai manifests his 8-armed form, holding conch, club, disc, lotus, 5th hand holding butter, 6th hand eating butter, 7th and 8th hand playing his flute. And then, with the Kastuba gem glistening on his chest, Vaidyanti garland, his chest marked with the footprints of Brigu, and peacock feathers set in gunja twigs in his hair. And then the full landscape of Vrindavan manifest as a backdrop to Nimai. Kalpavrikshes filled with birds singing the glories of the Lord. A vast landscape, pastoral scene with Surabhi cows grazing and gopas and gopis, and everything upon which that Brahman had ever meditated became fully manifest in samadhi before him. And he fell unconscious. And the Lord touched him and he came back to consciousness. immersed in the Ashtasataka bhavas. And he fell at the feet of Nimai crying. And Nimai said, "You are my servant in every birth, and my servants alone are privileged to see me as I am." We've been through this before. You came one day to Nanda Maharaj's house at the culmination of your long pilgrimage, and I did the same exact thing that I did to you today. You don't remember. I do. But don't reveal this to anyone. I advent myself as soon as there is kirtan, and I have taken birth in this world to spread that kirtan to every town and village. And you will see many of these pastimes of me bestowing that love which Brahma, Shiva, and Lakshmi cherish but cannot attain. I will distribute, and you will see, but don't tell anybody. And then the Brahmana was so ecstatic, he was dancing around the house, crying, "Jai Gopal, Jai Gopal," and he woke everybody up. And he thought he must have finished his third offering successfully, and he wanted to tell them. But then he remembered, the Lord said, "You cannot tell anybody what you experienced." Why? Of course, we know that the Lord wanted to experience the sentiments of Srimati Radharani, the joy of servitude which the Lord himself cannot experience, and that mood would be so much disrupted if people knew that he was God. But there's more to it. This hallucination of independence from Krishna, which besets the conditioned souls, is actually the Lord's mercy for those who don't want to serve him. And therefore he won't reveal himself to those who are disinclined to surrender, because then they would be impelled to surrender out of fear, which would create an unnatural relationship between the Lord and the jiva. So he keeps them deluded. So he told the Brahmin, "Don't tell anybody what you just saw." That Brahmin, that was the end of his pilgrimage. He lived in Navadvip for the rest of his days, coming every day to the house of Jagannath Mishra to see his Gopal in the form of Gaura Gopal. I mean, actually, ever since his babyhood, as a baby, he would cry if there wasn't chanting of Hare Krishna. So everybody soon learned, when he cries, chant Hare Krishna. When he grew up a little, just able to stand barely on his 2 feet, he would dance as the ladies in a circle around him chanted Hare Krishna. He would dance and smile upon them so lovingly that they could not stop chanting Hare Krishna. Then when he grew a little older, just old enough to run, he would dance in the middle of the assembly chanting Hare Krishna. He would run out into the streets and beg from anybody who saw, mainly sweetmeats, sweets which he could come back, and with his own little hands he would distribute to everyone who was chanting Hare Krishna, to assure them and us that if you dedicate your life to Sankirtan, you won't have to worry about your sustenance. The Lord will provide that with his own lotus hands. And when he danced in that kirtan, those ladies felt that the whole universe is dancing to the rhythm of his footsteps. Whenever he cried, everybody knew there's one sovereign remedy: chant Hare Krishna, until the day it didn't work. And they were perplexed. "Nimai, we're all chanting Hare Krishna. Why are you still crying?" And then he spoke. "Because it's Ekadasi, and Jagannath and Hiranya have prepared a special feast for their Gopal deity. I want that feast offered to me." Mother Saji was aghast. This is condemned in the Vedas, to eat the Lord's offering before him. But others, whatever he wants, we'll get it. Nimai didn't even know these Brahmins. He never met them. He was too young. They were friends of Jagannath Mishra over on the other side of the Ganges. So Jagannath Mishra went. They just finished cooking and were about to offer to Gopal. And Mishra said, my Nimai asked for this offering. He said, really? That's wonderful. They packed it up, took it to Mishra's house, placed it all before Nimai, much to Sachi's grief, and he ate a little bit of everything and distributed the rest. Now, what does this teach us? That such implicit faith is the supreme grace of the Lord, and it's the only way that we can see him and know him as he is, and actually offer to him in love and devotion to his satisfaction. Jagannath Mishra experienced all the anxieties he was very mischievous. And it's perplexing because we tend to equate religion with morality. Thinking, how could the Lord act this way? What did he do? He'd go to the Ganges where, Brahmanas chanting Gayatri waist deep in the water. He'd swim up underwater and grab their ankles and pull them out from under them. And then he would take all the ladies' clothes and put them on the men's side, the men's clothes placed on the ladies' side, so when they came out from the bath to get dressed. And then he would, with his lotus feet, he would kick water, and it would spray over everybody. They just finished their bath. They dried off to change their clothes, but they're not their clothes. And then sprays of water drenching them from the feet of this child. They're taking their bath, they're dressing in clean cloth to worship their deity. And every time, and then he throws sand on them. Another Brahmin chanting Gayatri waist deep in the water. He'd climb up on his shoulders. I'm Mahesh, worship me. Then he'd come onto the shore. Because when the Brahmanas are bathing in the water, they'd have their altar set up on the shore with everything for the offering. And while they're bathing, Nimai, he'd move the Shila off the altar and he'd sit on the Shalagram Shila's throne. He would dress himself and decorate himself with everything for the deity, and then he'd start eating. And then the Brahmana would come out. And he's speechless. Why aren't you saying anything? He for whom the offering is meant has just relished it. You should be happy. And the girls, they'd be worshiping Lord Shiva to get good husbands. And then he'd do the same thing. He'd sit down on Lord Shiva's altar, decorate himself, dress himself, start eating the offering. And the girls, Nimai! You should just worship me. If you do, you will get handsome, young, learned husbands and have 7 sons who are also learned and wealthy and will live long lives. And if you don't worship me, you'll get an old husband and 4 co-wives. They thought, well, maybe he knows something, so they'd worship him. So then the girls would go complain to Mother Sachi. He's stealing our clothes. He's stealing our offerings. He sneaks up behind us and sticks these prickly okra seeds in our hair. He's doing this? I will punish him. No. Don't punish him. It's not that we want to complain. We just can't stop talking about him. Then the Brahmanas would come and tell Jagannath Mishra what's going on down at the Ganges. He'd get mad. He'd take a stick. He'd head down to the Ganges. Nimai knew he was coming, so he'd tell his friends, tell him I didn't come today. So Jagannath Mishra comes. Where's Nimai? His friend and Nimai's friends come and, Jagannath Mishra, where's Nimai? We're waiting for him. He hasn't come today. Meanwhile, Nimai comes back to Sachi's house with his books and the same clothes he wore in the morning, decorated with ink spots as if he'd been in school, which he wasn't, looking like a champak flower with bees buzzing around it. Then Jagannath Mishra come back. So, how is it that he just comes home from school when everyone say he didn't go to school, he was down at the Ganges? And he said, well, I'm going to go bathe in the Ganges now, so he goes off. And they're wondering, how can this be happening? Who is our child? Is he some kind of... And considering everything we've been through, could he be some kind of demigod? Could he be Godhead himself? So then he goes back to the Ghat, and everybody congratulates him on his masterful ruse and near escape, and how he baffled everybody. And then they start their Ganges pastimes all over again. He make little missiles out of clay and throw them at his friends, and they'd throw them back, and they'd insult each other. Whole Ganges turned into a river of mud. Nobody could bathe and get clean. They'd call the police, they'd come, and then he'd swim over to the other side, do the same thing again. Very mischievous child. Oh, and then he and Vishwarup, they put cloth over them. And they'd run around like bulls, knocking down everybody's banana trees. And they'd tie people inside their houses so they couldn't get out to answer the call of nature. And they would just cry out in complete desperation, help, help. And then Mother Sachi would send Nimai, because Vishwarup, he'd spend his whole day in Advaitacharya's house, just immersed in Krishna Katha and Krishna Kirtan and Krishna Seva. Vishwarup wouldn't even come home for lunch. Mother Sachi would have to send Nimai. And in Advaita's assembly, with Vishwarup and Haridas Thakur, as they're relishing pastimes of Krishna and chanting sweet bhajans, when Nimai appear on the scene, everyone would fall silent. Nimai would come to Vishwarup, Sachi's calling, take him by the chadar and lead him out. And the whole atmosphere was hushed. Who is that child? Advaita said, I don't know. But I do know that soon the Lord, who I have been appealing to come, will reveal his pastimes for all of us to see. So Mishra experienced all the ecstasies and challenges of raising Nimai. But then, the godless situation of Nadia just so pained Vishwarup. Most of the day he'd be at Advaita's house, and when he came back to Sachi's house, he'd spend all his time in the temple room. No social life, and they were thinking, this is not good. Maybe he needs to be married. When he caught wind of that, that's it. He took sannyas and left Navadvip forever. Nadia became the abode of mourning in the absence of Vishwarup. And to console his parents, Nimai stayed always at their sides. And he wasn't so frivolous during this period, because he wanted to console his parents after the sannyasa of Vishwarup. So during this period, he started studying very attentively. I mean, he'd already attended, at the Vidyarambha ceremony, he just seeing the letters, he would in words, he would read them, and he said, I want to go to this Brahman's academy, Gangadas Pandit, who is Sandipani Muni and Vishwamitra Muni combined. And Nimai, just although a child, quickly became the leader of the class. But he became very attentive to his studies during this period to console Mishra and Mother Sachi. And they were so happy. But there's one thing he didn't like. The Smarta conception that external purity is all in all. And Mother Sachi was very meticulous in terms of external purity. Everything had to be so clean and pure. And Nimai was continually protesting this. Not that everything be externally clean, but that becomes a substitute for internal purification. So, it's the Smarta conception that he was addressing. So, we got to backtrack a little bit. When Jagannath Mishra saw Nimai so attentive to his studies, he was fearful. When one studies Shastra this devotedly, he will naturally conclude that this world is no place for gentlemen and renounce. So, he took away his books. He said, "You can't study anymore." Mother Sachi didn't like this. How will he learn? How will he become a pandit? How will he get a good wife? It doesn't matter. Krishna will take care of everything. We just can't let him take sannyas like Vishwarup. So they took away his books. And he humbly accepted on the one hand, but he severely protested on the other. Along with addressing Mother Sachi's obsession with external purity, one day he sat on top of the pile of broken refuse cooking pots and smeared himself with a black soot. And when Sachi heard this, she was so upset. She went, but she couldn't get him because he was on the top and she wouldn't touch those refuse pots. She said, "Nimai, come down." I said, "Why?" "Because now you're impure. You've touched you're all covered with soot from these." I said, "Mother Sachi, you are talking like a child. Don't you know that purity is a conception that only relates to me? Can there be any impurity in the Creator? It is my touch that sanctifies and purifies everything." And she was thinking, what is he saying? Finally, she just broke her principles. She walked right up the pile of pots and took him by the hand while he's laughing the whole while, took him to the Ganges to bathe. So she was thinking, he seems to be going a little bit mad. I mean, this is just one incident. One of many. You know, what he's telling the Brahmanas at the bathing ghat, what he's telling Mother Sachi in the mood of Dattatreya, sitting on the throne of broken, used refuse pots, she was thinking, he seems to be going a little mad. But she was torn because she was also thinking, maybe what he's saying is true. She didn't know what to think, so she confided in her sister, "I don't know what to make of all this." She said, "Well, when did it start?" He said, "Well, this one night, one of many nights, I woke up hearing Vedic hymns resonating in the other room. It was Nimai's room, and I went to get him, and there's these luminous figures caressing him and handing him from one to the other." And then her sister, Sachi, says, "This is serious. You must consult a whole council of Brahmani matrons. So they had the assembly, and Mother Sachi just sobbing, saying, my son, he's telling the Brahmins to worship him. He's saying that he's the creator, that this is really serious. And then who walks into the assembly but Nimai, this little infant, naked, off the streets, covered with dust. And he said, Nimai, how can you say such things? How can you be so disrespectful to the demigods? He said, I don't worship them. They worship me. And he laughed and ran out. Oh my God, this is more serious than anybody even imagined. Mother Sachi, all you can do is take shelter of Goddess Shasti. Worship Shasti so nicely because she protects children from ghosts and witches and evil spirits and danger and everything. Worship Shasti and beg for her protection for Nimai. And then Mother Sachi just started wailing, just sobbing even more. But I know what he'll do. He'll steal the offering. No, just do it while he's out playing. And do it in secret. Don't let him catch you. You can do it. So she tried. She made this elaborate feast to please Goddess Shasti. And she's watching over her shoulder the whole time. He's out playing. So she spread her sari over the offering and headed to the altar of Shasti. And she's looking over her shoulder and back and forth, and there's no sign of Nimai. And she's thinking she's got a maid. Just coming right before the altar, who shows up in front of her? Puts out his arms. Mother Sachi, what are you doing here in the woods? I said, Nimai, what are you doing here? I said, and what are you hiding under your sari? I bet it's sweets. And I'm so hungry, you didn't feed me properly today. She said, Nimai, just wait 1 minute. I'll make the offering, I'll give you the whole... No, I can't wait. My stomach is... The fire is burning. I can't wait. And he grabbed the offering and ran away. And right in front of Mother Sachi, he began eating the offering. She went before the altar, fell down, just sobbing, Goddess Shasti, you gave me this child. He's your child as well. Please protect him. So, Mother Sachi, everybody is praising her. Your son is so learned. And as the astrologer predicted, he will surpass Brihaspati in wisdom. But if you don't let him study, how will he... So then finally, she convinced Jagannath Mishra to relieve the ban on his studies, which he resumed again with great vigor. But then Jagannath Mishra had that horrendous dream. Mother Sachi woke in the night, hearing Mishra pleading, Oh Govinda, I've never asked you for anything for selfish purposes before, but I must appeal to you now. Don't let Nimai leave home. Keep him in our home. We cannot live without him. Mother Sachi woke up. Mishra's lying prostrate before the altar. What's wrong? He said, I had this fearful dream where I saw Nimai with his head shaved clean, dressed in saffron cloth as a sannyasi. He was laughing and dancing and crying, leading Sankirtan party. 4-headed, 5-headed personalities bowing down before him, him placing his feet upon their heads as he led this mass Sankirtan, and the demigods forming a circle around him. They sat him on a throne, and they're all chanting, Glorious, glorious to the son of Sachi. And that kirtan resounded throughout the universe. And throughout all creation, there was nothing to be heard other than praise to Nimai. And then he led that Sankirtan party towards Jagannath Puri. And I'm so fearful that this is an omen, and someday he will take sannyas and leave us. Mother Sachi said, no way. He can't leave us. It's just a dream. Don't take it seriously. But he did. And within a few days, he was beset with that terrible fever. Nimai clasped his lotus feet. He said, Father is such a precious name. I won't be able to call you again if you leave us. And Mishra's last words is, Nimai, I had a desire to see you grow up, which will not be fulfilled. I entrust you to the shelter of Lord Raghunath. And then Jagannath Mishra departed this world. And Nimai wept bitterly, just like Lord Ram, with the appearance of King Dasarath. And after that, Mother Sachi, as a widow, raising her son by herself, was challenging. There was no money. There was no income. And worse still, Nimai had a habit. If he didn't get his way, he would just destroy everything. One day, he told Mother Sachi, I'm going to bathe in the Ganges now. Give me some oil. And she said, what you would translate in the vernacular as just now coming. Just now coming? And then he became infused with the wrath of Rudra. And he just began smashing everything in the house. All the clay pots holding, ghee and oil and rice. He smashed all the pots. He shredded all the nets that hold the pots from the roof. He demolished all the windows and doors. He took a big stick and broke the rafters of the house. He went outside and started demolishing the house. When the house was demolished, he took the stick in the courtyard and started beating the earth. What do you mean, just now coming? And Mother Sachi was hiding in fear. And he began rolling on the ground in great anger. What do you mean, just now coming? But then, feeling himself so nurtured in the lap of Mother Earth, he fell asleep. Mother Sachi ran to get the oil, came before him, and was a little afraid of waking him up. So she very gently, tenderly brushed the dust off his body. Nimai, the oil is here now. I hope it pleased you and relieved whatever frustration you were feeling that you destroyed the whole house, because it's all yours. My only concern, how will I continue to provide for you when you destroy everything like this? And he looked at the house, which was just wreckage. And he felt a little guilty. But then Krishna will provide. So he went off to take his bath. Mother Sachi's looking at the wreckage. And then he comes back with something under his chadar. He said, Mother Sachi. He looked around. Come and see the proof of Krishna's promise. And he removed his chadar, and there was 2 tolas of pure gold. He said, look, Krishna gave you this stuff. That's a lot of gold. But Krishna gave me this stuff. You can use it to buy whatever you want. And he just laughed and ran away. So here's Mother Sachi with this big lump of gold. Thinking, how did he do that? How does he get it? Is he putting himself in danger? Or does he know some magic? And what are people going to think when she shows up in the market to buy some rice with this chunk of gold? And it happens all the time. It wasn't a remote incident. So she was in complete anxiety. But Mother Sachi's anxiety is far infinitely superior to the peace of the yogis, because it is an emotion of pure love and a concern for her child's service and care. So, and he became the greatest Pandit. He revealed his triumphs of learning, which is the pastimes of Gaura Narayan, defeating all the demoniac philosophies, culminating Digvijaya Pandit, defeated by Nimai. He eventually took sannyas. And while he was on his pilgrimage as a sannyasi, he came to Pandharpur, where he learned that Rangapuri is staying in Pandharpur. Rangapuri, godbrother of Ishwarapuri, Nimai's own spiritual master. So he went to see him, and he offered respects, and they embraced with so much love. And they began talking very lovingly. And Rangapuri asked Nimai, "Where is your town of origin? Where were you born?" He said, "I was born in Navadvip." Rangapuri said, "Navadvip? I remember Navadvip. I went there with Madhavendra Puri and his disciples on pilgrimage. I remember Navadvip because we were invited to the house of this Brahmana. It was like the embodiment of all the scriptures. His name was Jagannath Mishra. And his wife was like the mother of creation, so loving towards the sadhus. And she fed us sumptuously. And I remember this curry she made with banana flowers. I can never forget our pilgrimage to Navadvip because of our stay at the house of Jagannath Mishra. And they had a son who was so saintly and pure, and he took sannyas. And in the course of his pilgrimage, he came right here to Pandharpur. And from here, he entered Samadhi and went back to Godhead. So Nimai's listening. Yes, that's Navadvip. That was my mother and my father and my brother, who I've been searching for in this pilgrimage, not knowing where he's gone. What was his fate? Now you have revealed the mystery of my brother. So, after pilgrimage to the south, finally, his desire was fulfilled. Because what happened? In the middle of his triumphs of learning, when he was just the perfect embodiment of arrogance, and he wouldn't spare even the devotees. He would just torment them endlessly. And they were all praying, "Krishna, please make Nimai become a devotee someday." And even Srivas Pandit, he questioned him, "Nimai, you have so much vast learning, but it's all useless if it's not used in service to Krishna. Why don't you just surrender to Krishna?" Nimai said, "Because I don't have a spiritual master. Bless me. Only by the blessings of devotees can one become a servant of Krishna." So that happened when he went to perform Pinda at Gaya, and he met Ishwarapuri. And he begged Ishwarapuri, "Please grant me initiation." Ishwarapuri had known Nimai formerly from Navadvip. And Nimai, "You can ask me for initiation. I've already given you my life. Because since the first time I saw you in Navadvip, nothing else can come into my mind. I can't even think of Krishna without seeing you. I know who you are. But he, as a gesture of service, he gave him initiation. And the wrangling Smarta contending Nyayak at the conclusion of his triumphs of learning, there in Gaya with the students, they awoke in the middle of the night, hearing him crying in a pity of his voice. It wasn't his voice. It was the words of the daughter of King Rishabhanu in her great anguish of separation from Krishna. Oh Govinda, where have you gone after stealing my heart? And he left that dhamshala, dancing with arms raised. Krishna, I'm coming, as he proceeded to Vrindaban. When a voice from the sky resounded, Imai, it's the demigod speaking. We're in no position to tell you what to do. We can simply remind you that you've descended into this world to inaugurate Nam Sankirtan, which you have to first do in Navadvip. You can go to Vrindavan later. For now, return to Navadvip. Inaugurate this Nam Sankirtan movement. So then returning to Navadvip is totally different. Where he used to be the master of every topic, every shastra, every field of knowledge, now whatever he taught,